I have zero issues with DeVonta Smith not catching a pass. What do you hear from fans when the team is running the ball and they're just running? You say, do it again, keep running it, keep running it. If the defense is going to give you something, keep doing it. They refused to change their coverage on A.J. Brown.
There he is, Mike Gill. Monday mornings with Mike. And I'll tell you what, Mike, crazy day in the NFC East yesterday.
It was a wild NFC East day. And in fact, I think Friday night when you joined us, I had warned Pete Thompson, because we do our survivor poll, 2 people on our staff picked Tennessee, and I said, I don't think I like that one too much. The Giants.
I changed my pick. I do one of those super contests. I picked the Giants. I can't believe I pivoted. I said on the air, the Titans are going to win. No, I switched it Saturday.
Well, how many times, in the couple of weeks that the Good Morning NFC East has been alive, we've both kind of said, I think the Giants are moving in the right direction. Do I think they're going to win 10 games? Not necessarily, but the culture is moving in the right direction. And I have said on my show, the last couple years, I have been a big Tennessee fan. This year, not a Tennessee fan. I have really changed on them. No A.J. Brown. And I just think they're starting to have that team that wins the 13 games, can't get over the hump, and they start to take the steps back where it's too many times near the top, couldn't get over the top, the decline starts. This felt to me like a perfect overlook the Giants, and the Giants take one from you. You see the culture has changed there a little bit. I thought that was a game that they definitely lose the last 5 or 6 years.
It's amazing, too, because I didn't think the Giants' offense looked great at all in the first half. It looked like they were getting –
They were awful.
Yeah, but then Saquon Barkley gets that big run, and you know what happens when you actually give good players the football, like the Eagles with A.J. Brown? Good things tend to happen. And I wanted to get into this a little bit because I am getting tired of it already. DeVonta Smith didn't catch a pass yesterday. Who cares? They scored 38 points with DeVonta Smith, Wes Watkins, and Zach Pascal combining for 1 catch.
I have zero issues with DeVonta Smith not catching a pass. What do you hear from fans when the team is running the ball and they're just running? You say, do it again, keep running it. If the defense is going to give you something, keep doing it. They refused to change their coverage on A.J. Brown. Then I'm just going to keep throwing it to him. Until you make an adjustment, I will keep throwing it to him. I have zero problem with the ball distribution yesterday. Look, this is the biggest thing that drives me insane. It's the NFL, a road game. I don't care how aesthetically pleasing a game looks. You won a game. What happened in that game yesterday at 1 o'clock in Detroit has no bearing on what will happen in week 4, 14, a playoff game. Get out with a win. Doesn't matter what it looks like. DeVonta Smith, in fact, Jalen Hurts addressed it yesterday. Look, hey, man, you're going to get yours. But yesterday, they weren't defending A.J. Brown. Why would I not? Why would I throw it to someone else if they're not going to defend our best offensive weapon? I have no problem with what the Eagles' offense did. I mean, they got off to a slow start. I think that's a byproduct of no
A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts did. They were the two.
Yeah.
And
they got off. I think it was a byproduct of not having – a byproduct of not playing any preseason games. They looked really rusty. And look, quite frankly, give some credit to the Detroit defense, one, and the Detroit crowd. They came. They brought it. And they were a factor in that first quarter. It was loud in there, and I don't think the Eagles were ready for what they walked into.
I'll tell you what, Mike, I love Eagles fans to death, but I hate arguing with them on Twitter because they always think they're right. And when it was getting announced, Dave Burke of the Detroit Free Press, he was telling people this, look, it's going to be a sellout Sunday. Eagles fans are like, we're taking over. No, you're not taking over. It's Dan Campbell bobblehead day. It's week 1. There are Detroit Lions fans out there. and they brought it. I heard there was maybe one corner that was Eagles fans. That was about it.
Yeah, I know that there was a trip out there that had some people, but I can't imagine there was more than, I don't know.
It's the local minority on social media that get a lot of retweets and a lot of likes. It happens. And look, I love Philly sports. I love how they are bringing everybody out there. That's awesome. I hope they do it every single week, but it's not like you're bringing 60,000 people out there.
No, like I say, I know there's like Philly sports trips. So they work with our station. We sent a winner to Washington in 2 weeks. I think
I can see more fans in Washington. That's a little different.
Yeah, I know they have a bus coming from our area down in Atlantic City, which they've never done before. This is the first time that they're doing that. But I think there's over 1,000 people on the trip down there in total. So you're talking about 1,000 people. I know there's other companies that do stuff like this. But listen, the fact of the matter is, Detroit finished last year 3-3. So they started last year turning the corner a little bit. They played hard all year last year. They were in a lot of one-score games. Eagles fans remember that they went and smoked them 44-6. That's an anomaly of their season. They were in a lot of games last year. They finished the season 3-3. They've made some solid moves in the offseason, and not to mention now you have the coach there for the second year. That team, are they a playoff team? Probably not. But they are taking the steps of turning the page. Their culture is changing. And it's so important to have that feeling that we think we can win rather than we're just out here hoping we can win. Detroit thinks they can win.
Their fans think that too. Like, I tweeted a stat. Amon-Ra St. Brown tied an NFL record for consecutive games with 8 catches and a touchdown. And Detroit fans were like, some were like, who cares? We lost. And then some fans were like, you know what? We might be pretty good. That Eagles team is really good. They're going to win the NFC East. Every Detroit fan was saying that yesterday. And they're like, we scored 35 on them. We brought it. You know, we were right there. We might be closer than we think. And I think Detroit fans can feel that today.
Yeah. Well, and also, look, I mean, if you watch enough football, you understand. I think the Eagles defense had a bad day yesterday. There's a lot we could talk about there. But sometimes also, and I think, look, the Eagles need to improve defensively. I don't like the way I thought John Gannon had a horrible day. You know, I gave him the benefit of the doubt in the offseason. I gave him the benefit of the doubt this offseason. Look, you got new pieces. It might take him a couple weeks to kind of figure out what he wants to do, but you're not getting any pressure. He sent Zippo pressure yesterday. 0, nothing. I think they blitzed once, and they actually
the first quarter, and that was it. I didn't see anything else.
But look what Detroit did. They came after you right off the bat. They came in, and look, I get it. Buffalo on Thursday night didn't blitz once. Guess what? They were getting pressure without blitzing. You don't have to dial up a blitz if you're getting pressure. John Gannon keeps waiting for his defensive front to get pressure, and they're not getting it. Like, for whatever reason, they've got talent up front, but they're not getting to the quarterback.
I say this all the time. Jim Schwartz was a good defensive coordinator for this city, but he wasn't liked. Jonathan Gannon, Jim Schwartz will run laps around Jonathan Gannon right now. I'm getting tired of Jonathan Gannon not blitzing, playing guys back, and just basically, when it got to 31-14, and I know this is how the NFL works today, but let's let him get back in the game. How about let's dial it up a bit. Why don't we keep Jordan Davis in, who was stopping the run yesterday? And look, I think this is a bigger issue. The Eagles are out of shape, and I think that's why Jordan Davis wasn't playing as much. But this is what frustrated me. Detroit out-physicaled them yesterday. If Detroit was better, they would have won that game.
I think Detroit took advantage of the Eagles' over-aggression with their tackles. The tackles were getting upfield pressure, and Detroit was running those little delay insides and just counter trapping you and delaying you to death in there because you were getting. Yeah, Swift had such a big day, but it wasn't like he was hitting the outside corners and beating you there. They were getting you with the up the field pressure, and as Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave were getting up the field, they were running right past them, and they did it all day. The over pursue was all day, and you're right. When Jordan Davis was in the game, he had two distinct plays when he was in the game. They tried to run that play, and he ate it up. I mean, he absolutely swallowed the running back. It was a 3rd down and 2, and he just absolutely swallowed the guy, gave him no place to go because he didn't over-pursue. He got off his block and just swallowed the running back. I thought Gannon had a terrible game plan yesterday, but that's not to say look, I think that he had a terrible game plan yesterday, but I'm also not going to sit here and say that the Eagles are going to give up 35 points every single week because he gave up 35 points yesterday. You go back, you watch what you did. I think you go in with a game plan. This is one thing, when I try to ask guys who play in the league when they're on my show is, when something's not going right, like, can you just not make an adjustment or change on the fly? And a lot of times they'll say, well, really, no, like, we didn't practice that stuff all week long.
They go by what they practice and what they thought. Week 1 is such an anomaly because you don't know. Everybody's so secretive now. Did you really think the Eagles were going to – I mean, we saw it in training camp. Jalen Hurts was targeting A.J. Brown. But you did not see Jalen Hurts go to his left. You did not see Jalen Hurts take off on the blitz like he did yesterday. That's something Detroit's probably like, well, hold on a second. So I don't know, Mike. It's just now you got film on people. I want to see how that defense adjusts week 2 against a really good Vikings offense.
Well, and listen, just for Eagles fans who are like, their defense was horrible. They went down to Atlanta last year and put up like 30-some points, and that's not what kind of offense they were. They just caught the team off guard because there was no tape on them. You didn't know what to expect. And they went out there and executed very well. And then they got on tape the next week, and San Francisco bottled them up and shut them down. Just because you score 38 one week doesn't mean you're a 38-point-a-game offense. Just because you give up 35 one week doesn't mean you're a 35-point-a-game defense. The tape gets out there, the teams make adjustments, and then you start to figure out where I am in this league. I thought offensively the Eagles settled in, but still, even settling in, Detroit sent the house at you. No hot reads. Where was the check off hot read? Where's the they
did you even have time to do that at that point?
Right. I mean, well, you're right. There was a lot of time where the play clock was winding down. They were snapping the ball with 2 seconds. They called timeouts because they didn't know where they were at. I think this is a byproduct of, as many former players have said, they need to play preseason games for those reasons, not because this, that, or the other. It's the trade-off of trying not to get hurt, but this is the result. You see a team that looked very sloppy, and I think what you said, Jeff, they looked tired at times. They looked like they were not prepared very well and still got it out of there with a win.
Unlike Dallas, who, by the way, played Tampa at home last night. I thought Dallas would give them a pretty good match. Tampa
that Dallas team
overmatched them, Mike.
I've been trying to say it cautiously, but I just don't think Dallas is very good. I've been trying to say the reason I think Dallas is in the conversation is because they have the best quarterback. They had the best quarterback. They had the best quarterback in the division. And they have the best defensive player. And you saw their defense kept them in that game last night. And this team is going to be much like the team 2 years ago when Dak got hurt, except they now have a defense to keep them in those games. That defense 2 years ago was so bad. They got better as that year went on, if you remember. But their games are going to be like that all season, 17-9. They can't score. They can't score. That offense, as I've been saying, their offensive line has deteriorated. They have no weapons on the outside. I don't think Lamb can handle being the number one guy all by himself.
11 times, 2 catches. They shut him. Carlton Davis shut him down last night when he was on him. And,
well, they had nobody else, and they don't use Pollard enough.
He's not ready.
They don't use Pollard enough.
No, they don't. Well, he had 6 carries for 8 yards, and they just ditched him.
Mike McCarthy is probably the worst NFL head coach with, and I don't say he's the worst of all of the coaches because some teams, guys are just.
He's the worst head coach in the division.
He's the worst head coach in the division. He's the worst head coach with talent. I mean, last year they had talent. He's the reason why they didn't win, just like Garrett before them. They were the most poorly coached, talented team last year, the Garrett years, and now they are not talented and they have a terrible head coach. They're in this because they have a good defensive coordinator. That'll probably, I don't know. They've got a stretch coming up. They got New York and Washington. If they can't win those two games, well, they got the Bengals, who screwed me in my survivor pool. They've got the Bengals, and then they have New York and Washington. If they can't beat New York and Washington at this stage of the season, they're going to be in for a long year, I think.
Oh, yeah, because then they got the Rams, then they got the Eagles, and Dak doesn't look like he's playing at least the next 5 games. At least that's what the
And Dak, our friend Matt Lombardo tweeted, he looks pedestrian. I said, and you're being kind.
Yeah, Matt was being kind. Matt and I were talking last night. Matt was being kind on that one.
I think Prescott, before he got hurt, looked dreadful last night. He was awful. They look terrible. But, again, I'm not ready to judge them based off of one game. But I had inclinations coming into this season that I didn't think that team was going to be very good.
I will say about the Cowboys, their defense is good. It is a
really I agree. I agree.
They were getting pressure. Micah Parsons might be one of the best defensive players in football, if not the best, with TJ Watt out now. It's absolutely insane. Trayvon Diggs had a good game last night. I thought that defense, you're right, that defense is going to keep them in games, but that offense, they are going to play a quarterback right now that was not on their roster come Friday.
Well, Cooper Rush has been there.
Yeah, but
on and
he
on.
wasn't on the active roster because of the loopholes and stuff. But Cooper Rush ain't winning them 3.
No, listen, that team last night you saw is a byproduct of, we talk about in Philly a lot. Howie Roseman got a ton of criticism over the years about he's horrible, he's got to go, he's terrible.
He can't draft. Jerry Jones can't draft.
Well, no, I disagree. The Cowboys draft well. Their problem is they don't know how to manage the cap. They don't know what to do when a contract – you cannot give Ezekiel Elliott that contract. That contract has handcuffed their rest of that roster.
I should say it. They can't draft offensive linemen because they drafted a couple over the last couple years, and none of them are any good. Josh Ball is not any good. They are so lucky they found Terrence Steele. And I think Collinsworth pointed out last night. They are so lucky they found him in the undrafted free agent pool because I thought he played well last night. But the rest of them, Josh Ball, Matt Wazico, their 4th-round pick this year, he should be their left tackle, and Smith should be the left guard like they thought.
Yeah.
Now Connor McGovern's hurt.
I think Peters is not ready. He'll probably go to left tackle. They'll probably move Smith back to guard. But that being said, look, they have drafted well. They just don't know how to do the rest of the draft building. Roster building.
J-Ron Kearse is in this thing last night. J-Ron Kearse he might be out. He's a good player. They're just falling.
They lose McGovern for 4 to 6 weeks probably with the ankle. I mean, they already lost their left. Look, this team a couple of years ago went through this where they had injury after injury after injury, and you had to listen to the Cowboy fans cry for about 12 weeks. Well, you're going to listen to them cry for about 16 weeks now because they've lost their quarterback. They've lost 2 pieces of the offensive line. It's going to be a long year for them, I think.
I had someone say to me on Twitter, and I don't respond to a lot of people for this reason, but I had to do it. I said something about the Cowboys offense, like I was concerned about, Dak Prescott is a million times better than Jalen Hurts. I'm like, what does this have to do with Jalen Hurts? What does this have to do with anything?
Probably the same guy that got me.
Yeah, it probably was, honestly. And I'm just like, dude,
I responded the same way.
Up and watch your football team.
I don't know what – somebody responded to me about Jalen Hurts' contract. And once they give him that contract, I said, well, that's great, but that has nothing to do with the 2022 season.
Yeah, that's all I care about.
By the way, I thought Hurts yesterday basically bailed them out. I mean, without him, I don't think they win that game.
Jalen Hurts yesterday. They won that game because of him. If Jalen Hurts doesn't beat that blitz, if they have a statue back there, a quarterback, or they have Carson Wentz or whoever people want back there, a passing quarterback, they lose.
Well, speaking of Wentz, I mean, what'd you think of Wentz yesterday? He throws for 330-plus yards.
He looked good at times yesterday. He did look good.
Right, but he had the 4 touchdowns, and then he has the 2 Wentz moments. So there's like flashes of both versions of Wentz in there. But and I said this, I think, on your show. I think Jacksonville's a team that was a sneaky team. I tweeted out yesterday, my best bet of the week was the Vikings. I thought the Vikings were going to smoke that team, and they did.
They did.
Yep, I love the Vikings yesterday. My survivor pool was Bengals. That didn't go. I said a sneaky bet to watch was Jacksonville, and they had a shot to win that game. They didn't end up covering, by the way.
I'll tell you what. I'll say this: Jahan Dotson is going to be a problem in this division, Mike. He made Carson Wentz's life so much easier yesterday.
Yeah, well, and Washington, I thought, just had too many weapons for Jack. That was what I was going to say. In the end, I think Jacksonville fought hard. They looked better. I didn't think Trevor Lawrence looked all that good yesterday.
Yeah, he was okay. And you know what? Doug Pearson's right. Jacksonville, our biggest enemy this year is going to be ourselves. We are going to beat we're losing games, we're beating ourselves. He said, we beat ourselves a lot yesterday. And they asked him about Carson, and he was like, look, the guy has a Super Bowl. He made a lot, he makes those throws, and he's giving his old quarterback some credit. And Carson gave the typical Carson answer when it came to Doug Pearson. Oh, well, we're 1-0. I'm like, God, just answer the question. For once, answer the question.
Well, listen, Washington didn't look great yesterday, but they got out of there with something they haven't been able to do. They won a game. Right. They won. Everybody won yesterday in the division except for Dallas, and you move on. Like, it's that week is now over. What are you going to look like in week 2? Like, you look at a 17-game season, and each week looks different. People hold on to what you looked like this week and carry it, and it's like then as soon as the next game is played, you totally forget what happened in week number 1, and now you're like, well, this is who we are. It's like, this is why these games.
I have an awesome column every week for CBS Sports now. They want me to do week 1 overreactions versus reality, right? I am the king of overreactions when it comes to games. I'm like, Saquon Barkley's going to be a top 5 running back in football, and then you got to actually step back and think, is that he was the best running back in football yesterday.
Well, he might be. Look, he was drafted to be. When you draft a guy number 2 overall, he better be a top 5 running back.
He looked like a top 5 running back yesterday. He's the reason they won that game.
Hey, another team that I do not like this year, San Francisco. I told everybody I do not have them as a playoff team. I did not have them as a playoff team on my who's in, who's out. And I know that field was a sloppy mess yesterday.
That's why I'm not going crazy over it.
Yes, with Trey Lance on that field, that was probably a little bit of a problem. But I think you just took a total culture change out there for no reason, and you lost to a team that many people thought was the worst team in the league entering. Now, another guy that I said, if Justin Fields is the player that he was drafted to be,
and I think he is,
then that Bears team might surprise people.
So this is how funny week 1 of the NFL is. If someone would have said to me Friday, who are going to be the 3 worst teams in the league, I probably would have said the Bears, the Giants, and the Texans, and they want to combine 2-0-1 yesterday.
And the Falcons, who really should have won that game yesterday.
The Falcons should beat the Saints. Jameis Winston went off in the 4th quarter. Taysom Hill had 4 carries for 80-some yards. What a weird game. Oh, Michael Thomas is back too, by the way.
Oh, and I said I have the Saints in as a playoff team. I've liked this. I know a lot of Eagles fans all kind of been mocking the Saints because of the draft pick situation, but I think the Saints are a playoff team. Their defense was disappointing yesterday, but they've got weapons on offense. Now, Winston, we'll see what ends up happening with that whole situation out with him.
Winston.
Yep. I mean, he's going to make mistakes, but he also threw for 5,000 yards. And I think I said this on your show last week, which is he threw for 5,000 yards in Tampa. He didn't have any weapons out there. Look what he's got here in New Orleans.
It's so weird. They're one of those weird teams. By the way, I got to go a little NFL here before we head it. Did you see the Colts-Texans tie? Did you get to watch any of that yesterday?
No. You know what? That's one of the few games that I did not check in on all day or saw nothing on.
So one of the big things that's been debated is Lovie Smith had the ball at midfield. He got a fourth down. There was about maybe 2 minutes left. He punted, right? And they asked him after the game about it, and he said, look, a tie is better than a loss. And they're like, that's such a losing mentality. I'm like, they're tied for first in the division. Tie. We've seen in Philadelphia, ties win divisions.
I was going to say, we've seen it all over football where the tie actually does come into play, and it's for the better. The team that gets the tie knocks it. If you were, 9-7 or 9-6-1, the 9-6-1 team goes to the playoffs. The 9-7 team does not. So the tie really acts as a win in most situations. I understand the mentality part of it. It looks like you're just accepting a tie, but in reality, getting the tie is like taking a win.
Yeah, I wish people would understand. There's a big difference what Brian Dable did in going for 2 and going for the win yesterday.
Loved it.
And Lovie Smith punting in overtime. It's a big, big difference.
Loved what Dable did. Loved the hiring of Dable. I have been steadfast, and I think you too, about the culture changing in New York. That decision right there, and his answer after the game. They asked him, like, hey, you go. He goes, I don't care. You gotta take chances. Sometimes you gotta take chances. That answer tells you everything you need to know about where the Giants are going. There's always a team that surprises, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants now with Dallas kind of. I think if you're an NFC East fan watching this right now, and you're a Dallas fan, if you're being true to yourself, without Dak Prescott, even with Dak Prescott, you're probably like, this is going to be an
sky's falling for a reason, Mike. It's
you've got to take a look now. Again, I'm not a big take what I saw in 1 week and then that's gospel, but I didn't like Dallas long term this year. I certainly don't feel any different about that after week 1. But the Giants were a team that I thought the culture was changing. I just didn't think that was going to translate to on-the-field wins yet. They might win more games than I thought.
So I'm going to part with this. The Giants had more 60-yard plays in the third quarter yesterday, 2, than they did all last year. 1. That's all I needed. That's all I needed.
Yep. Look, I think the Giants yesterday did not look good for most of the game.
No, they did.
They beat a team that I think is on the decline.
On the road. Washington
gets a win, and it's probably a game that in years past they don't have the quarterback play. I'm not saying Wentz was great yesterday, but he made some plays for them that I don't think the Tyler Heineke's make.
Alex Smith, even in his last years, I don't think he was those plays.
So I think Wentz was good enough. We keep saying this offseason, can he just be good enough? Yesterday he was just good enough. Now they beat Jacksonville. They're going to have to do better than that. Dallas was dreadful in all facets of offense last night. Defensively, they were very good. And Philadelphia, they even said it during the broadcast. You heard Collinsworth. He's like, they look really, really good. I don't think they look really, really good, but I think their offense is a huge problem for teams.
They should not lose this division. That's my week 1 overreaction. They should not lose this division. Mike, I got to let you go. Thanks for coming on. Next Monday, we're going to do it all again, my friend. I cannot wait. Actually, we're going to do it tonight.
5:30. I'll be at Ocean Casino where the post game was yesterday. We are at the same spot every Monday where the post game guys are. So Mikey Miss, Derek Gunn, and Seth and Devin, I thought they did a good job yesterday. I was watching them actually when I was in the car. I was driving up to the airport, and I had them on in the car. So I'll be at the gallery on Monday.
Mike, once again, thanks for coming on. I always appreciate it.
Sure thing.
All right, guys, and I got to give my tribute to Joey McDonald. We're going to put a bow on the show right after this.